Resident Evil Village has now been out for about 3 days, 4 days now. In that time, I've been able to complete it on hardcore difficulty in about 10.5 hours in completion time. You can get it done a lot longer, you can get it done in a little bit shorter, but I myself tried to get all of the treasures, tried to find all of the hidden items, so I myself took my time. So just keep that in mind when I'm talking over in this general review of the game. You end up liking the game and you want to buy it and you want to support the channel, you can subscribe or check out my Amazon affiliate shop in the description below to buy Resident Evil, as it will help support me. Thank you all so much. So let's get on with it. I myself had a lot of fun playing through Resident Evil 8 Village. Like many other games of Resident Evil, I am a huge fan. I started the series on Resident Evil 4, which is why I'm thinking I'm probably liking this game more than some of the other ones, but we'll go over that shortly. Resident Evil Village is kind of a mixture of Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 4, in the sense that it's very scenic, there's a lot of atmosphere, it's very spooky in that regard, the background music's lovely, it really does set the scene well, but you're not always just doing nothing, being spooked and walking around. No, it's very much like Resident Evil 4, a lot of the Resident Evils where you're constantly running around third person over the shoulder with a gun. You're killing the enemies, you're picking up loot, you're gathering items, you're finding unlockables. So it has that major aspect of Resident Evil 4 in there. It's pretty much Resident Evil 4 with a hint of Resident Evil 7, and it's honestly beautiful in my opinion. All of the background footage you'll see here was taken on stream, so if you, for whatever reason, want to watch any of the playthrough, it is on my channel. I streamed it, and I did it all live, so very fun game. It took me 3 sessions, and about 15-16 hours of stream time, 10.5 hours of game time. So this game introduces a mechanic called blocking. In Resident Evil 4, you pretty much run around, shoot, and you can punch, right? In this game, you run around, you shoot, and you can block with spacebar, middle mouse, whatever, call it what you will. And that just decreases damage, you don't get as much damage at all, and it's a very useful mechanic. So that may take some getting used to for some people. I know if you're anything like me, you're not at all used to any sort of block mechanic, so I myself just took so many hits to the face, probably ended up dying a needless amount of times, but that's not really a thing that's bad. It's just a new mechanic that they've brought into the game. I thought I should bring that up. But other than that, majority of the game, you are running around looking for items, looking for loot, looking to pick things up that just may be laying around. You'll be fighting the enemies, running away from them, trying to be smart, running away from the enemies in general. It plays like a Resident Evil game. Atmospherically, they did do very well with the music. In certain scenes, the music and background noise changes completely. You can hear a ton of scuttering in the background, skittling, we'll call it whatever you will. You can hear enemies running around, rummaging. Some of it may just be background music, whereas some of it may be legitimate enemies that are close by. So it's a mixture of messing with your senses in that regard. So I think it really does well with the atmosphere. The music constantly changes depending on what room, what part of the castle scene you're in really any place. If you can't tell, this is going to be a spoiler-free, for the most part, review. I'm not going to be talking about any story details. I'm going to be very vague because I feel like most people who want to play it should probably play through most of the game on their own. And I'm gonna take most of my footage from the first hour or two of the game. I don't wanna show off all of the set pieces, all of the characters or anything like that, because a lot of it, I think it's just a lot more fun to discover it on your own, naturally. Much like Resident Evil 4, there is a lot of backtracking. I would say the village in this game is the main hub. That's the central area where you'll probably backtrack a lot to. Things will constantly be changing, so the game does give you incentive to explore the same areas multiple times. So there's things like that to keep in mind. There are just general collectibles, there's things in the walls, gems that you can just shoot off that'll fall down and you pick up, so you'll want to watch out for those. The game gives many context clues as to things either before you find them or after you find them. It really depends on how you like to play the game. Like, I myself tried to search for everything, so half the time when I found a clue to something, I've already like maybe done that thing. And it wasn't usually any big clue, so it wasn't a game-breaking thing like that, no. Just always something pretty small. So if you do like backtracking, if you like the looter-shootery, Resident Evil resource gathering type of stuff, you probably will enjoy this game. You will pretty much always have your guns out, as it plays like Resident Evil 4. There's no like shooting enemies in the kneecap, shooting them in the head, and then running up and meleeing them. You have a knife, but I only would run and pull out my knife when I either was out of ammo or I felt like messing around and styling on the enemies. The knife realistically is not your main weapon of combat whatsoever, but it may come in handy in some situations. You do collect a metric ton of guns as well, like you would in Resident Evil 4. There are pistols, there are shotguns, there are grenade launchers, rifles, magnums, and just so many more that I still will have to unlock. The game itself is very interesting. It is a direct storyline continuation from Resident Evil 7, so if you know and have played of Resident Evil 7, you'll probably have a better understanding of what's going on. If not, some things may be a little confusing. They do explain things always and eventually in games like these, but if you don't quite know what happened in Resident Evil 7, a lot of things can just be a little confusing. The game does have a story recap in the beginning, but it's nowhere near as good as playing through all of Resident Evil 7 naturally. It just gives you a TLDR on what happened and the continuation of the story. So you don't at all have to play Resident Evil 7 to like this game. Trust me, I didn't. I did know a lot of the story as I watched playthroughs back in the day, but that's about it. So I'll say that you don't need to know the storyline of the predecessor, but I mean, it won't hurt. The game does stand well alone because it'll give you enough context clues, it'll give you enough information in the game itself so that you'll have a general understanding. It'll definitely be a little confusing if it's your first Resident Evil game because Resident Evil at this point has so much history and lore to it. It's like, what, 20, 30 years of just stuff? So it's a big franchise, okay? That's really all I have to say about the story. I did like the story. There were a lot of interesting characters, a lot of fun things to do, but the one thing I do have to shit on is Ethan as a character. Ethan is possibly the dumbest main character I've ever witnessed in my entire life. He's the kind of character where I feel like he's a normal person throughout the entire thing who isn't aware of what's happening or that he is just in this crazy situation, you know? It feels like he's just not aware. He's not self-aware at all. It's so odd. Because he just doesn't feel like he's actually living in the moment. It feels like he is a video game character, okay? He feels so inauthentic. It's hilarious. Like, his reactions to things and what's happening around him and the, like, dialogue options they give him make, in my opinion, no fucking sense whatsoever half the time, and they just give me a huge laugh. Because my understanding is Ethan went through all of Resident Evil 7, okay? He's gone through all of that, and now he's going on through Resident Evil 8, and like, everything's just so confusing to him. He doesn't understand anything. He's like, what's going on? Like, there's just so much mental confusion going on in his brain, but at the same time, he's slaying everyone like an absolute doomslayer. But he's still like, what happened, guys? As he just slaughters all of the enemies. The worst part about this game, in my honest to God opinion, is the character Ethan and just how fake he seems. Other than that, you'll probably be fine. Like, I got over it, and it is honestly, the only thing it really does is kind of break you out of the immersion, because he's just so inauthentic as a character. But other than that, I did love the game. It can feel a little clunky at times. In my opinion, it doesn't control as well as Resident Evil 4 did back in the day, but that definitely has some nostalgia goggles on it at this point, so I would take that with a grain of salt. I myself played on PC and I streamed it. The only issues I had were with the high particle effects in certain scenes, caused me to just lag out and stutter here and there, but you should be okay because I was streaming the entire time. It takes up a lot more resources than if you're not streaming. So it probably will make a big difference. I was playing after all still in like 1080p, made sure to cap it at 60 FPS instead of 120 FPS for the stream, things like that. So no matter what, I would say it plays pretty well. If you're playing this on PS5, if you're playing this on Xbox One, and if you have a controller, if you're used to that, you should have fun, but it's definitely gonna be a lot easier on keyboard mouse if you're used to that sort of control scheme. I've played previous games on mouse and keyboard, on controller, and hilariously enough, I played Resident Evil 4 on the Wii U. So I'm used to a lot of weird control schemes at this point, and PC should be fine, mouse, keyboard. Controller, it'll be a little harder, but it still should be fine. All in all, I want to say I would definitely buy Resident Evil Village. It's a fun experience. Once you complete the game for the first time, I would say try do it in the hardest difficulty if you want to, if you're into that. If not, yeah, lower the difficulty. This game has a ton of replayability, much like Resident Evil 4. Once you finish the game, it unlocks a harder difficulty, it unlocks more unlockables, it unlocks a somewhat sort of achievement system and shop to buy stuff, and I would say check it out. I will let you know that on my first playthrough, I beat the game, right, 10.5 hours. And from that, I was able to unlock an infinite ammo grenade launcher for my next playthrough. So now I'm gonna be having some fun and memeing around in the game, doing just wonky stuff on the 4th difficulty that I've recently unlocked. So I myself think there's a lot of replayability. If you thought Resident Evil 4 had replayability, then this definitely does. It has the mercenary side mission gameplay once you beat the game as well. You just have to quickly unlock it and then you'll be able to do that. If you remember what that game mode is, I'm not going to show any of it right now, but that sort of game mode is a timed, I guess, arena where you just destroy the enemies, you collect weapons and ammo, and you try to get a high score. It does add a lot of replayability to the game, and I still have even more things to unlock via getting a high rank in there and replaying the game and unlocking achievements / challenges. Again, I would buy the game. If it's a little expensive, I would definitely hold off and buy it when it's on sale. If you have the money, I would buy it now. But yeah, AAA games are fucking so expensive these days. It kind of sucks. Since I'm in Canada, I think they're like $80 at this point, $90 almost. So yeah, they're getting expensive. So definitely worth a purchase. If not, worth a purchase on sale one of these days, because it was definitely a good experience, a good play, and I liked all of the characters, bosses, enemies. The big goth mom vampire was the #1 attraction, but she is merely one of many characters. But she was definitely a huge media attraction, so worth it. I love the game. 9 out of 10. It's not perfect, obviously. If you want me to give it a score, I'll give it a 9 out of 10, but it was very fun. I loved it, and you'll probably be seeing me stream it here and there on the channel, and you may see occasional videos here and there if I just feel like making a Resident Evil Village video. So, thank you guys for watching. I would appreciate it if you want to buy the game, if you would use my affiliate links that I pinned down below in my description and comment section, purely because it won't cost you any extra money and it helps the channel out. So, thank you again. Check out all my socials like Facebook and Instagram if you want to follow me there, Twitter, TikTok, whatever. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.